The winter winds howled through the silent streets of a forgotten town. Near an old temple, an old beggar named Kashi sat curled up against the cold stone walls, his frail fingers cupped around a tiny candle, the last source of warmth he had in a world that had long abandoned him. Kashi wasn't always a beggar. Once he had a family, a home filled with laughter, and a life of dignity. But fate had stripped it all away, leaving him with nothing but memories and the painful understanding that no one remembers the fallen. One evening, as the sky turned the color of dying embers, a man named Suraj passed by. Suraj was wealthy, wrapped in a thick coat, his boots clicking against the stone pavement as he walked. He stopped in front of Kashi, watching the frail man shiver. A moment of pity washed over him. "Why do you sit here in this bitter cold, old man?" Kashi looked up, his eyes sunken but still burning with a quiet strength. He held up his flickering candle. "This little flame, it's all I have. It may be small, but it keeps me alive." Suraj exhaled, shaking his head. Without thinking, he said, "You don't have to suffer like this. I promise I'll bring you a thick blanket tomorrow, maybe even some food. No one should live like this." Kashi's lips trembled, not from the cold, but from something deeper. A promise. "Do you mean it?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Suraj nodded confidently. "Yes. Tomorrow, you'll have warmth." That night, for the first time in years, Kashi slept with hope. He imagined the softness of a warm blanket, the kindness of a full meal. He wasn't forgotten. Someone had seen him. Someone had promised. The next evening, Kashi sat in the same spot, his candle burning low. His bones ached, his breath came out in short, shivering gasps. But his heart clung to hope. He waited. The sun set, the streets emptied. Suraj never came. Perhaps he was late. Perhaps he had been busy. Kashi's fingers curled around the dying candle as he told himself, "Tomorrow, he will come tomorrow." But tomorrow came, and Suraj didn't, and the day after that, and the day after that. Hope, so recently rekindled, flickered once more, weaker than before. Kashi understood now. Promises were easy to make, but easier to forget. The candle burned lower. His hands shook violently. The cold was winning. One night, as he sat in the freezing dark, barely breathing, a little girl passed by. She was no older than 10, her own clothes patched and worn, yet she stopped beside Kashi. Without a word, she unwound the thin scarf around her neck and placed it gently over his trembling shoulders. "Take this, Baba," she whispered. "It's not much, but it's warm." Kashi looked at her, tears pooling in his weary eyes. A little girl with almost nothing gave him something. A rich man with everything gave him nothing but words. The world spun in cruel irony. He wanted to cry, to scream, but his body had grown too weak. That night, Kashi clutched the scarf, whispering one last thought into the wind. No more waiting. The candle beside him finally died out. Days later, Suraj passed by the temple again. It had rained the night before, and the town smelled of damp stone and fading prayers. As he neared Kashi's usual spot, he slowed his pace. Something was wrong. The old man wasn't there. Only a tiny melted candle remained, its wax hardened in the cold, its flame long gone. A strange, unsettling feeling crawled up Suraj's spine. "Where is he?" he asked a shopkeeper nearby. The man sighed, shaking his head. "The old beggar? He didn't make it through the last storm." Suraj's heart clenched. "But I promised him." The words felt hollow, meaningless. He had spoken them so easily. had let them slip from his mind just as easily. But for Kashi, that promise had been everything. For the first time in his life, Suraj understood something terrible. A false promise doesn't just disappoint. Sometimes it destroys. The melted candle stared back at him, a haunting reminder of the warmth he had never brought, and the warmth that would never return. Moral of the story is, never promise something you cannot fulfill, for a broken promise can be colder than the harshest winter. And never depend on others to save you, for the only light that will truly keep you warm is the one you ignite within yourself. Suraj's promise gave Kashi hope, but when it was broken, it became his greatest heartbreak. A false promise is worse than silence. It gives hope only to take it away. Kashi waited for someone to save him when he should have saved himself.